What's your best joke? What's your inspiration? Who are your comedy icons? Is it more difficult for a woman to be a comedian?
Well, women aren't funny.
Do you wish you had a penis?
Yeah. Yeah. So what's your favourite road to drive on?
What's your favourite service station on the M1?
My favourite service station is on the M5. It's Frankly Services because it sounds like it's really grumpy.
Is Kev literally just talking to himself? I mean, I do have things to do.
I cut out just after the theme tune, didn't I? Comic Cuts. We're looking at a panel and we comprise a panel. There's a few of us. So the panel sees a panel, then we talk about the comics from the panel we've discussed and we call it Comic Cuts. Be honest.
It was quite well timed.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Hello and welcome to Comic Cuts, the panel show. My name's Kev F. Sutherland. You might know me as a writer and artist for the Beano and Marvel Comics and Oink and Doctor Who and the Scottish Falsetto Sock Puppet Theatre and my graphic novel adaptations of Shakespeare, although the chances are you probably don't. My guests today talking comics are Bennett, Arron and Susan Murray.
Hello.
Yay.
Yeah, no, don't get over enthusiastic. I have two guests with me today who've brought with them a panel from a comic or something close. We're going to see if we can identify it and talk about it. Maybe we and you will learn something about comics we didn't already know, or maybe we'll just show off a bit and have an enjoyable chat. Let's see. Joining me from the far-flung wilds of, I have no idea where you are. Bennett, where are you, Bennett?
I'm just outside London in my living room. I'm not giving you any more information than that because Susan's a stalker.
I know where he lives.
Sounds like you're in some sort of geostationary satellite, like Halo Jones off of 2000 AD.
Let's go with that.
Susan, where are you? You're in Birmingham, aren't you?
I'm not in Birmingham. How dare you? I'm in the Black Country at my parents' house.
Oh, which part of the Black Country? What constitutes the Black Country?
Small towns, so like Wolverhampton, Willenhall, Walsall, Bilston, Cradley. There's loads of like little towns that constitute the Black Country. Birmingham is not the Black Country. I actually live in London, but I'm just here visiting. Been in London since the 80s, mate. But people still think I live up here, and I think it might be something to do with my accent. I haven't picked up the Cockney one. I don't know why that might be.
This is it for everybody, though, isn't it? Your accent, which you pretty well pick up in your teens, that characterises everybody, because like nobody believes I'm Scottish because I sound like this. Bennett, you're very posh Welsh, aren't you?
I'm posh Welsh. Yeah, it's funny because when I go home, people say to me, well, where's that accent come from? But when I'm not at home, people go, oh, you've got such a strong accent. So I don't know. I know it gets stronger when I speak to anybody. Well, in fact, I rang, I think it was EE I spoke to yesterday, and it transpired that the woman I was speaking to was from Swansea. So within 5 minutes, I was going, well, no, right, there's a problem with it. And what it is, it's just not connecting. And I thought, what am I doing? But yeah. So it comes and goes.
Now, you've both got really odd things on your CVs or descriptions. I'm going to begin with Bennett, fraud speaker. Now, you scroll down, you see writer, you see comedian. That makes sense. Fraud speaker, it sounds like you're, I don't know, a tribute act to yourself. What's a fraud speaker mean?
What does a fraud... It means somebody who thinks they're good, but really isn't. No, oh God. So years and years ago, 20-something years ago, I had my identity stolen and I became the first major victim of identity theft in the UK and sort of lost everything, became penniless and homeless, blah, blah, blah. And then years later, I did a documentary about it, in which I stole the identity of the Home Secretary, and got arrested by Scotland Yard. So I now go around the world talking about fraud and identity theft and online cybersecurity and that type of stuff. Thank God, because stand-up doesn't pay well enough. So I do this as well.
So being a victim of crime, you would recommend over a career in comms?
If I had to choose between the two, yes.
Dear listener at home, every now and again we have technical problems and we have a chat offline. I can guarantee the chat offline is probably more interesting than everything we're going to talk about.
And it will never be broadcast. Never be broadcast.
Well, Susan, can I talk about what we were just talking about?
You can't. No, you really can't.
Okay, everybody, could be the most boring half hour you've listened to because Susan. Okay, Susan, I'll tell you one of the things we can talk about, which is you being a plane crash enthusiast. What?
Oh yeah, who doesn't love a good plane crash? Come on.
Like everybody.
Have you got a favourite? We've all got one. Come on, everyone's got a favourite plane crash.
No, that's way too grisly because it's largely got dead people in it.
No. 95% of plane crashes aren't fatal.
Yes, but the 5% that the rest of us know about are the big ones with all the dead people in.
That's the problem, isn't it? It's because we know how the media works, because the media likes something that's completely catastrophic and shocking. So
you're saying plane crashes get bad PR?
Yeah, they do, don't they? Oh, it's a shame for them.
So you were doing some flying very recently.
Well, I was meant to be doing a flying lesson because I'm friends with an air crash investigator. Of course I am. And for my birthday, he said, he says, have you ever had a flying lesson? I went, no, and I don't want to actually, because I'm very scared of flying. And then I mentioned it on Facebook, and all my friends, all my evil comedy friends went, I'd pay to see you do that. And I thought, well, I suppose I could do it for the Comedians Benevolent Fund. So I went down to Shoreham, and because that's where he does his flying lessons from, this air crash investigator, because he was also a pilot. They always are. And the weather's just been too bad. So I waited around, I was down there for 4 days anyway, but the weather was just raining. So I've had to postpone it. I'm slightly glad, actually. It gave me a bad back with the stress of it. I was like, to go see an osteopath while I was down there. I could feel my shoulder going twinge.
Was this the stress of thinking about flying?
Yeah.
That's because you look at all these bloody plane crashes.
Well, exactly. I know I've done it to myself because I'm an idiot. But the thing is, pilots and crew, they all watch air crash investigation and then they go to work. I mean, that's like, watching the Live at the Apollo, where it's all gone horribly wrong and everyone's died.
I'd watch that.
I'm having a look at everyone's CVs, just seeing who's got quite the more conservative details. So what's more conservative? Having written for Freddie Starr and Hale & Pace, or doing decompression gigs for the Army? First of all, Hale & Pace and Freddie Starr. That was neither today nor yesterday, was it, Bennett?
Oh, yeah, very recent. My first ever writing job was for Hale & Pace. In fact, writing for Hale & Pace was the reason I got into stand-up, because I was writing sketches, and one day a producer came back and said, we love all these apart from this particular one. And I said, oh, no, that one's the funniest. And he went, well, it's not. And I thought, I'm not going to argue with him because he's paying me. But I thought it was funny. And the only way I could find out if it was funny was to try and put it into some kind of stand-up thing. Because I never really wanted to do comedy.
Can you remember what was it? Can you remember?
Oh, what, the joke?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you'll know it because you've seen me performing 25 million times and it's still in my set. It was, how did I phrase it? It was a thing of, I was with a girl and she was talking, we were talking about fantasies, and she told me that she wanted to cover herself in whipped cream and for me to lick it off. And I said, I'd love to, but unfortunately I'm allergic to cream. And she said, don't worry, I'll use a substitute, which she did. Brian, his name was. So that was the...
That's a great gag.
Well, I thought it was a really good gag. And they went, no, that won't work. And I went, well, no, okay. And then I tried it and it got such a big response. I went, oh, that's a nice feeling. And I thought, I'll try some more gigs. And my fourth ever gig was at the Comedy Store. Believe it or not, when you could do that. And my fifth ever gig was the Late Show at Jongleurs Battersea. So,
oh my word, yeah. What was that like?
It was fine because I didn't realise how nervous you were meant to be. And I remember I used to start off with a newspaper doing a crossword. Can you imagine? I mean, the thought of doing
I remember that.
Do you remember that? The thought of doing that now at any show, let alone the Late Show at Battersea, 1:45 in the morning when everybody's drunk, going, I'll just start off with this soft, gentle crossword gag. But they went with it because I had I guess the confidence of being new. I don't know.
The ignorance and the confidence.
Absolutely. So it was that. And so that's the reason I got into stand-up, was because of writing for Hale & Pace, bizarrely. So I wrote for them.
Hale & Pace they were the young. Do you remember Hale & Pace in the young one?
Yes. Yeah. They were great.
They were a real crossover between the trad and the what did we call it? Alternative in those days.
Yeah. And they were lovely guys. I mean, really nice, funny guys. And yeah. It was a great job.
Susan, what's a decompression gig?
A decompression gig is when the troops have been at war or an occupied territory, and they get brought back to a base in Europe somewhere to decompress, so that they don't immediately come home and start beating their girlfriends up. So it's the army have to look after them. So they give them a show. And they give them new music, and they take them out for the day, like kayaking and stuff like that. They give them like a little two-day little break, and then send them back to England. And so when they come to the decompression gigs, they're all a bit mad because they've all been shot at for 4 months.
Yeah.
So they were difficult. And I was the first woman to ever MC a gig for the Forces after Vera Lynn.
Wow.
Hard act to follow, Vera.
Yeah, they were tough gigs actually. But you kind of learned how to do them, and like you got better as you went along. So
Well, let's see if this podcast gets better as it goes along, as we have a look at the two panels that my guests have brought with them. I've asked everyone on the panel to bring a panel to the panel. You can see these images on my website, kevfcomicartist.com, and they should be on the holding artwork for this episode of the podcast, depending where you get your podcasts from. But don't worry, listener at home, you shouldn't need to see these pictures because we're going to do an amazing job of describing them. Let's have a look first at the picture that Bennett has brought in.
well, there's a lot of words to read.
Well, let's see, Susan, what you can describe here.
Okay, well, there's a bit of light shining on it. You obviously took that by a window. So it's people looking at it's a map. It's a graphic of an electric map, and it's a person who's got purple skin saying, "The quaint little people just west of England, Iceman. Picture the Scots without the sex appeal, or the Irish without the Latin. You pretty much got them nailed." And then there's a person in a detective type looking hat that says, "Very bloody amusing. I don't think Agent Braddock."
Yeah. Now, for the benefit of the panelologists at home who study line and colour and composition, I would say, Bennett, that you've cropped in really close on a bigger picture. Am I right?
I have, because the rest of it was a massive giveaway. So
right. Okay. So we've cropped in so close that we're actually seeing up the nostril of a character who's got an earring. I wonder if the earring's a telltale part of the costume. I can't tell. She's female. It looks like her face is white and lit with purple light and green lit on the side. The bloke in the hat, we can just about tell he's a bloke, but we can mostly just see his hat. And then, I don't know what giveaways you were trying to avoid, but at the bottom, there's the top of someone's beret, which has got a circle with an X in it, almost like they have in X-Men comics. And then in the voice bubble, which you've left in there, someone refers to X-Men, you know, like in the X-Men comics, and also refers to Agent Braddock, Braddock being the surname of at least two people in the X-Men comics. So I'm going to stick my neck out and suggest this is from an X-Man comic. Susan, would you like to have a guess?
Yeah, I reckon I'll go with what you say. I reckon it's probably from an X-Men comic.
Bennett, tell us what we're looking at.
Well, yeah, I didn't want to make it too difficult. The thing is, I've got. I don't even know if you know how big my comic book collection is, Kev, or how much I'm into comics, or the fact my mother, bless her, who passed away a couple of months ago, threw away my comic book collection, which I've worked out it would have been worth around £75,000.
Oh my God! How long ago was that disposed of?
30 years ago. But when I tell you that the comic books I had were some from the 60s, were number 2 Fantastic Four and things of that ilk.
Oh man!
So yes. So I've been a massive comic book fan since the age of 6 or something.
What did you say to your mum? How did that conversation go?
Well, they were moving home and I said, "Please, whatever you do, don't throw away this comic book collection." She went, No. I went, no, really, don't throw it away. And she went, "No." And it was so dismissive. I went, "That's going to be thrown away." So the minute they moved, I went to the house and I said, "Where's the comic book collection?" And she went, "I don't know." I did. It had been thrown away. So it was just, but my kids had never, ever, ever let her forget it. And I go to a lot of comic book conventions and I just cry, really.
So you're collecting in the 80s, right?
Yeah.
You could still pick up a lot of comics from the 60s for pocket money prices, throwaway prices, and in good condition.
And I have got a couple of things now that I'm very proud of. I've got signed poster, proper framed Stanley posters, which I'm very, very proud of. So I could have chosen a lot of things, and I chose it. And the reason I chose this is because, as Susan so beautifully and eloquently read, the lines refer to a quaint little people just west of England. Picture the Scots without the sex appeal, or the Irish without the laughs. And she's of course talking about the Welsh. So when I read that, I went, "What? That's just rude." And then, and this is the other reason I mentioned it, because this is just showing off, I wrote to Mark Miller, who wrote it, on Twitter privately, and I went, "You wrote this," and he wrote back laughing, saying, "Yep, it hasn't changed." So,
can you tell us what comic exactly we're looking at here?
Yes, it's 18 years ago, the Ultimate X-Men. is the
And that's by Mark Miller. And is that drawn by Brian Hitch?
Yes, it is.
Excellent. Yes, the X-Men, the Ultimate titles are largely what the modern movies are based on, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah, I've liked all the X-Men films, apart from the original X-Men 3. I don't think that worked. And the last 2 X-Men films.
How many they've made? You don't seem to like a lot of them.
Well, they did sort of 3 of the original ones, and then they did another 4. They did X-Men First Class and sort of used those. Although they did, the second one sort of jump back and forth. I'm rubbish with names, but they jump back and forth between.
But are you a fan of the X-Men comics primarily, and the films are also there, or do you take the X-Men films now so seriously that they compete with the comics?
I was never a massive comic book fan of X-Men. I was a very big fan of Avengers, huge fan of Fantastic Four, Spider-Man. Daredevil was my favourite, which is the other panel I was going to go with, was Daredevil, funny enough, but I didn't.
Which period of Daredevil?
Frank Miller. Probably
right.
Is I loved all that. The Born Again saga was probably, one of my favorites. And when Daredevil came on TV and the series with Charlie Cox on Netflix, my daughter said to me she has never seen me smile all the way through every episode of a program. I've now watched it, I think, 5 times. My son has watched it 7 times. My daughter said it's probably the best program to be on television in the history of television.
And what is it about it? Is it the fact that someone's taking your childhood comics seriously?
Yeah, it's exactly the same as when I saw the first Avengers film. I just went, all the memories came back, all the childhood memories. I went, I loved all these characters and they are now together and it's done perfectly. So, yeah, very excited.
Have you seen many of the superhero movies, Susan?
No.
And that's what the podcast...
That was a short conversation.
And the podcast ended dramatically.
Really not my thing. I don't like sci-fi. I don't
really
like
not my
fantasy.
thing.
I like true life murder stuff, true life crime. That's what I'm into. And true life, plane crash documentaries. That's what I like.
It is interesting who picks up on science fiction and comics, and the fact that comic books do fantasy predominantly. I mean, even in countries like France, where they do, let's face it, some of the most boring comics in the world, they'll do comics about ballet and history, but there's still a hell of a lot of fantasy. Not as much as in America, not as much as in Japan, but it's still always there. What is it about it that gets us?
To me, it's just the suspension of disbelief. I still read comic books in bed. I read graphic novels because they help me fall asleep, because you just sort of get taken away from, reality, I suppose. And I am able to, if I go to the theatre, I cannot suspend disbelief at all. It's just something I'm completely incapable of doing. I know I'm in the theatre. I know they're actors on stage. I'm looking around. I'm aware of the people next to me. Reading comic books, to me, is very, very easy to be taken away. Saying that, I did, of course, see Susan's wonderful Edinburgh show about plane crashes, which, if she ever does again, I recommend everybody go to see, because it was one of my favourite things I've seen. And I'm not just saying...
Let's not badmouth people standing on stages, given that it's what we do for a living.
No, I'm talking about plays more than stand-up. I'm talking about, I don't know what it... I went to drama school. I trained as an actor. I remember we had to come back after seeing the first production we saw and write a thesis on it. And I just went, I didn't believe any of it. So musicals are even worse. I can't bear musicals. I hate musicals. Yeah,
I was made to go and see Hamilton, and I was fuming.
Yep.
Because it was bad enough, and then somebody started rapping in French. I was just livid. I was absolutely furious.
I don't get me. I mean, say it or don't say it, but why sing it? It makes no sense.
You get a lot of people have the same snobbishness about comic books. I've heard people on the radio, on a good read, being proud of their inability to read comics, saying things like, I didn't know whether you were supposed to go from the left to the right, and what were the words in bubbles. Art forms just suit some people, don't they? So were you really young when you started reading comics, Bennett?
Oh, yeah, very young. 4 or 5, I guess.
And what would you have started with at 4 and 5?
Fantastic Four.
Right, from the British reprints or from colour comics?
From the... a friend of mine had, I think it was his dad's original sort of comics. So I read them from the beginning, the original. I mean, I held the first ever editions of Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Daredevil. So, you know, these were first but these were British reprints, but they were still, you know,
Originals, but worthless.
Originals, but not now though. Now worth a lot.
But Mighty World of Marvel from 1973. I put all mine on eBay a few years ago, and either I was screwed over or...
No, I don't mean those. I mean the British version of the American comics is what I mean.
With 10p on instead of 10
that's
cents.
right. With
Right.
6D, I think was on the front cover or something similar, whatever that was.
Yeah. So looking at the picture here on the screen, they're having a go at the Welsh. Has there ever been a Welsh superhero?
No, there we go.
Oh, you've obviously researched that, Bennett.
Yeah, I'm just really angry about it. No, as far as I can.
Hang on. Tom Jones. Now he is a superhero.
He is a superhero. Hasn't had his own. I mean, he probably has had his own comic strip.
He appears in Mars Attack. So if there's a comic adaptation of Mars Attack, he's in it.
Okay.
I imagine he's stripped quite a lot. You'd hope.
I'm sure you imagine that often. No, I mean, you know, Captain Britain probably visited Cardiff, but I don't think there's been as far as I know, that there hasn't been. Die Hard was the closest. It's just.
Okie dokie. Well, we've done the Welsh. Now we're going to have a look at what comes from the Black Country and your tastes in comics. Susan, I'm about to share your selection. Brace yourself, Bennett, because you've got to describe what you're looking at here.
Oh, for goodness. And nothing screams Susan more than this. So it's one panel called Rude Kid. And the mother, I think that's the mother, is saying to the son, "Have you tidied your bedroom yet, young man?" And the little boy, who looks very, very angry, says, "Piss up a rope fuckstick." So I'm guessing this is very early dandy.
For the benefit of listeners at home, you can see this picture. A censored version appears on the artwork for this episode, but not the full version. You'll find it on my website, kevfcomicartist.com. And if from that description you haven't guessed where it's from, you clearly have never seen this magazine before. But Bennett, do you actually have a guess where it's from?
I'm assuming it's Viz.
It's Viz, isn't it? Rude Kid in Viz. And this is quite early on, I think. I mean, Rude Kid appears right early on. He appears right back in 1979, I think. In 1980, he might be in the very first Viz. And he was in really inventive swears. Susan, tell us more.
Utter genius. I think this was early 90s. I mean, I don't know whether they recycled them because I didn't realise he'd been in the magazine that long.
They definitely don't recycle them because they collect up the best and put them in a book, and people visit and revisit Viz. And they really, I mean, once you've read something in Roger's Profanosaurus, that's gospel, that's history, that's set in stone.
I do love swearing. And you know, Roger's Profanosaurus, it's just kind of changed the lexicon of swearing, hasn't it, really? And I remember seeing this in Viz magazine, and it still makes me laugh now. And this is like over 30 years ago. And it's always stuck with me, like piss up a rope, fuck stick. It's like, and then I would sit and I would imagine somebody actually trying to piss up a rope, and I actually try to like visualize that. And fuck stick is just hilarious, isn't it? And oh god, I love Viz magazine. We used to like buy it, and then we'd sit around reading it out, like, you know, like in the olden days, they'd sit around the radiogram and listen to programs. We'd sit and we'd read out Viz magazines and read out the letters and stuff like that. And there were so many brilliant things in it. And I remember do you remember when they started bringing out animations of the stuff, and they did the Fat Slags? Yeah. And it was Jenny Eclair and Kathy Burke who played the Fat Slags. Yeah. And then John Thompson, they were working at a holiday camp, and John Thompson was the comic turn that turns up. And I just remember I bootlegged it loads of times to give to my friends. I remember it was like a Christmas present for lots of people. And the stand-up that they wrote for the comic turn, because it was based on Roy Chubby Brown, right? Right. And I remember in the animation he was going, mate, I don't know if I can swear this much. He goes, "Maywave's cunt, big as a car park. Parked my car and the other night. I couldn't find it in the morning. Maywaves is a multi-story car park. And then and then he's chatting up the fat slags and they're asking for his autograph and he's going, I haven't got a pen. I'll have to use me cock. I'll have to write it in spunk, mate. And I just remember thinking it's before I started stand-up, it was one of the funniest things I'd ever heard because it was so wrong and so rude. And I just fell in love with it. I just loved it. And I worked in animation at that time as well. So it was like a double whammy of like hysterical stuff.
There's nothing like this. It was revolutionary because they did something that at the time people would say you can't do anything like this and nobody will ever buy it. So of course they did and people did. It's also, I think, going to be taken more seriously than almost anything done in comics of that time or most times. Do you remember? I remember a documentary, it must have been the 90s when Viz was selling 1 million copies and Oberon Waugh, Evelyn Waugh's son, was on there comparing Viz to Rabelais. And saying that there was none was better than the other. There's a cartoon advert that Viz had done where you wiped your arse by cycling on a bike, and then the bike would go up your arse crack and wipe it for you. And Oberon Waugh compared that to the example from Rabelais, where the giant Gargantua wipes his arse on a downy swan. I think it's downy swan or downy goose. And it is the same thing. One's made up by a 14th century monk and one's made up by some guys in Newcastle. But they're quite right. You know, remember they did a talk called Swearing is Both Big and Clever. Alex Collar and Simon Donald. They took that to Edinburgh.
So we know Alex and Simon, don't we? Because Alex writes. I know him from writing for Radio 4, and Simon because he does character stand up in the clubs.
Yeah.
And they're both really, really great guys. I tell you, do you remember the adverts they used to have? There was a brilliant one, and it was taking the mickey out of the Daily Mail Sunday supplement adverts that you would get, and they would just sell utter nonsense, right? And there was a China Hitler doll as a little boy, right? But the words, it was like look into his icy malevolent blue eyes and all this kind of stuff. And there was another one, and it was a little girl, and she was stood, and like it was a little doll, but she was next to a bottle of bleach, and it was, "Mummy, this lemonade tastes funny." They were just so sick. Oh God, they used to have me. I really like dark, sick humor. It really, really gets me. Like it tweaks my funny bone, and I just loved Viz. I thought it was like, when you first read Viz, when you're kind of like a teenager, because it was very much a sort of student mag, wasn't it? And it was just mind-blowing. It was kind of like the sort of like, because I remember like The Young Ones was the mind-blowing TV program. Viz was the mind-blowing, magazine that I was reading, because they were just, but I've got to just say, I used to think the graphic novel meant pornographic. I didn't realise it just meant drawn. Such a wrong phrase. But yeah, we all loved Viz, didn't we?
What I loved about Viz was the fact that there were normal people. That is to say, everybody else who got to make humour or got to be journalists seemed to be posh. I mean, I now discover they all weren't. But like the young ones, for example, were posh. Ben Elton and Richard Curtis, posh. They came from public school backgrounds or they came from Oxbridge. And Viz were very much the exceptions to that rule, especially in written comedy.
Yeah, they were fantastic. And I know Gary. I sent off some stuff to Letterbox, and I think Gary Delaney. I think he might have had some stuff printed in there. But of course, now we know people who actually write it, and they had some brilliant, like Brown Bottle and Sid the Sexy, the Fat Slags, and Nobby's Piles and Mrs. Brady, Old Lady. It was just just genius.
Billy the Fish,
genius.
I think, is one of my favourites.
In Billy the Fish's stadium, the adverts that go around the edge that say, eat food, drink liquids, shit in your toilet. Things that you think they're amazing and no one thought of those before. I mean, I know that's the thing with all humour, but sometimes these things are like a paradigm shift in comedy writing. And I think Viz totally is that.
I didn't think a lot of the, when they did the sort of cartoon version of it, the animated thing for Channel 4, I didn't think a lot of it worked because it was so much better when you could hear it in your head than actually hearing people doing the voices, in my opinion.
It's often the way when you translate something from one art form to another, because you've got to be right on top of it. It's like when they do stand-up in a movie or in a TV show, and you look at it and think, well, that would die on its arse because that's been written by someone. It's not right. It doesn't ring true. And same with these guys. They wrote it, they drew it, they got it right. They knew what they were doing. And if you change that in any way, you change the space, you change the time. Even though they had Peter Cook doing voices and Jimmy Nail doing voices, that's not enough to necessarily make it work.
You know that the little boy in the drawing, the rude kid, doesn't he look like the comedian Steve Harris? Or was that just?
And he probably was like that as a kid as well.
Yeah, it's very Punch and Judy-esque, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very, very. It's like something I would draw. I couldn't even draw that. I'm so terrible at art. I'm really hopeless.
Thank you, guys. You've brought in some stonkers today. Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Bennett. We've just been looking at The Ultimate X-Men by Mark Millar and Brian Hitch, having a go at the Welsh. And we've been having a look at Rude Kid from Viz Comic, saying piss up a rope, fuck stick. If you've got any questions that you'd like to ask us about these pieces or anything in general, you can find us on our various social media. Bennett, where do we find you?
Usually hiding behind bins. But online, it's bennettarron.com.
And Susan, where do we find you on the socials?
I'm That's Susan Murray on Twitter. I'm Susan Murray Comedian on Instagram and Facebook. And my website is susan-murray.co.uk.
And you'll find me at KevF Comic Artist on Twitter and the website kevfcomicartist.com. That was Comic Cuts. Please click subscribe to be sure of hearing every episode when it comes out, and leave us a review. Why don't you? It does help. Thanks again to Bennett. Thanks to Susan. And thanks to you at home for listening. I've been Kev F. This has been Comic Cuts, the panel show.